took Linda. And then it came for me.
Hello, welcome to Outside Xbox and a bunch of new games scheduled for release in 2021 that might well have flown under your radar. Yes, we know all about the Halo Infinites, the Resident Evil Villages, and the Cyberpunk 2077 patch that'll finally fix all those bugs where your trousers fall off. But outside the world of big AAA releases, there are some interesting smaller games that have caught our eye. It is worth mentioning that amidst the chaos of 2020, 3 of the still very exciting games we mentioned last year haven't yet made it to our Xboxes. Disco Elysium, Kerbal Space Program 2 and Outriders have all slipped into 2021, though in the case of Disco Elysium, that's because we're getting an improved, fully voiced Final Cut version.
The great city at the end of the world is waiting.
Wow! That guy's voice is like Idris Elba crossed with another Idris Elba. Those games are still well worth keeping tabs on, clearly, but here are another 7 new games for 2021 that you didn't know you needed in your life. Enjoy!
What the hell?
Pretty much everyone on the planet is frustrated with Valve's seeming inability to make a game with a number 3 on the end of it. We can't imagine there's anyone more frustrated though than the development team at Turtle Rock, who worked with Valve on Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. Clearly tired of waiting for Gabe Newell to clear the giant pile of gold and gems covering his phone and answer it, the studio has announced Back 4 Blood. And yes, that absolutely is a number 4 in the title. Subtle. The good news is, honestly, this might as well be Left 4 Dead 3. The AI director that made those games so replayable is back, ensuring that you're never quite sure when you're going to be mobbed by a zombie horde.
Damn, here we go!
The difference is that in Back 4 Blood, there's also a new card system that integrates with it. Each time you play, the AI director dishes out a hand of corruption cards, which might include, for example, a layer of fog to reduce visibility, reduced ammunition, or the presence of a particular special zombie to ruin your day. You can then play your own hand of bonus cards you've earned throughout the game to attempt to counter those obstacles. It's a smart way to put some of the features of the AI director in the hands of the player and mix up each playthrough. All this sounds great. The only problem is, the Left 4 Dead brand is still very much owned by Valve, so while the game is clearly extremely similar, Turtle Rock has had to go on a zombie renaming spree. So we have the Stinger instead of the Hunter, the Wretch instead of the Boomer, and the Ogre instead of the Tank. Though if you think we're using anything other than the Left 4 Dead names, you're dreaming. Oh, and the Infected are called the Ridden, presumably because they're disease-ridden and not because of anything else. Stop laughing at the back there. We've made no secret of our excitement for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, a game that somehow still isn't with us. Folks, I'm starting to think that cosmic ordering doesn't work.
Yours.
In the meantime, we'll keep ourselves busy with another game set in the World of Darkness universe, but which features werewolves, which are like vampires, only hairier, smellier, and less cool. But because vampires are extremely, off-the-charts cool, that means werewolves are still quite cool. As the werewolf clans in the World of Darkness are all about a deep connection with nature, your job as lead character Kahal is to sabotage the oil drilling efforts of corrupt energy company Enron. Not to be confused with real-life corrupt energy company Enron, which is different because... oh, who am I kidding? They're exactly the same. Good job Enron went bankrupt, because there is no way this game could survive that lawsuit. Kahal has the ability to switch between 3 different forms: a wolf for sneaking around undetected and slipping into vents, a human form for performing takedowns and presumably opening door handles, and finally the Krynos werewolf form for getting stuck into combat. Whoa! I mean, based on that, Why not just be the werewolf all the time? There will be something of a strategic element. You'll need to build up your meter in order to access the most powerful form, because as a werewolf, you're entirely powered by rage. Just like me when it gets to 3 PM and I still haven't had any lunch. You wouldn't like me when I'm hangry. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why should I be interested in a turn-based game set in what looks like a generic fantasy world? Well, the previous King's Bounty game was apparently full of weird stuff like the option to marry a zombie, or a sequence where you get trapped inside your own belt and have to fight your way out. Based on that description, and that description alone, we're already excited. King's Bounty 2 has certainly had a graphical glow-up thanks to the intervening years, but the reveal trailer does seem to be exactly the sort of grim and gritty medieval realism that we're not interested in. I don't see a single zombie bride here. But while the original game took place from a high overhead view, King's Bounty 2 brings the camera closer for a far more detailed and immersive world. We're promised meaningful choices and tens of hours of role-playing, but rather than say Skyrim, where as the hero you have to single-handedly punch every single wolf to death, in King's Bounty 2 you'll be able to raise an army for that turn-based combat. What we're really hoping for though is some new romance options. Maybe this talking skeleton? I mean, look at those cheekbones. Resident Evil Village might be the most exciting survival horror release of 2021, but don't forget the medium made by Bloober Team. Alright, the name Bloober Team might make it sound like the studio is staffed entirely by cartoon characters, but the games from the Polish developer have been getting increasingly assured. Layers of Fear and Layers of Fear 2 were effective but rough around the edges, but 2019's Blair Witch was a genuinely creepy, playable version of the classic horror movie. I mean, that is if you got past the bit where you obsessively play Snake on your retro mobile phone.
Sorry, Blair Witch. I'm a little preoccupied right now.
We've got high hopes that the medium will be even better than Blair Witch. This time it's a third-person psychological horror where you play as Marianne, a young woman with mysterious psychic powers.
Even as a child.
I'd take that jacket in a medium. The game's unique mechanic, designed to set it apart from other horror games, is that you will be able to switch between the physical and spiritual planes, or even play in both simultaneously. You'll need to operate in both planes in order to solve puzzles, negotiate environments, and avoid enemies. So the spiritual plane is like the physical plane, but orange and blown up. Got it. The game also has music from Silent Hill composer Akira Yamaoka, and while that's not the same as having a new Silent Hill game, if you'll be playing most of the game with your eyes clamped shut in terror like we will, it might as well be.
It ate all of them, Marianne. All of my friends.
Necronomicon Ex Mortis, the Book of the Dead.
Believe it or not, I'm one of the mugs who bought the crappy PS1 era Evil Dead game, which was a bit like Resident Evil, only with the addition of Bruce Campbell wearily reciting his famous movie catchphrases.
Come get some. Let's go. Groovy.
The recording studio coffee machine must have been broken that day. We're hoping for better results from the upcoming Evil Dead the Game, which is a 4-player co-op survival horror where you take control of Ash Williams and his buddies and battle hordes of gross monsters called Deadites. Locations and characters are borrowed not just from the first couple of films, which took place almost exclusively in a cabin in the woods, but also from the Ash vs. the Evil Dead TV series and, brilliantly, the bizarre medieval fantasy world of Army of Darkness.
It was never meant for the world of the living.
Either that, or this is some sort of extremely elaborate LARP. Interesting tidbits include the fact that you'll have to manage your fear levels as you play, and that the game's asymmetrical player versus player mode has one player taking control of the Kandarian demon and possessing Deadites in order to battle the 4 human players. There's limited footage out there of Evil Dead the Game at the moment, but there's reason to feel confident because it's made by Saber Interactive, a studio which has recent experience building 4-player co-op horror games, in that it made the surprisingly not awful World War Z game. Now if they can just make this Evil Dead game surprisingly not awful.
Let's go. Yo, come get some.
It's apparently harder than it looks.
Probably been a long time since you've had a visitor. I hope you don't mind pop-ins.
You might remember Psychonauts as a cartoony PS2-era third-person adventure through the mindscapes of a variety of troubled characters.
Looks like a test. There's probably a secret, more advanced route.
What's that supposed to mean?
A sequel, Psychonauts 2, has been in the works for some time, having been announced way back in 2015 and subject to crowd-funded development for several years. We'll admit, we thought it was coming out in 2019. Things really appear to have picked up pace since it was announced that developer Double Fine was acquired by Microsoft in June of that year, presumably because the studio now has access to Phil Spencer's Scrooge McDuck money vault. The main reason we're excited about Psychonauts 2 though is that truly funny comedy games are few and far between. For every brilliant, hilarious game like Portal, there are 10 Leisure Suit Larry Wet Dreams Dry Twices.
Why does that always happen to me when I try to get close to winning?
The good news is one of Portal's writers, Eric Walpole, is on board, and Double Fine has a pretty consistent hit rate when it comes to making us laugh, so we're looking forward to another gloriously silly adventure. Not least because a bit like Double Fine's most famous game, Brutal Legend, Hollywood star Jack Black returns to voice a character.
Let me do some different ones that are going to be slightly annoying to you, but I want to try some different things. Let's hit it again.
Although if this game also turns out to be secretly a real-time strategy game, I'm out. If watching the TV series Chernobyl has taught us anything, it's that the Chernobyl exclusion zone is absolutely riddled with beloved British character actors. And also Stellan Skarsgård was there, representing Sweden. We're not sure then how realistic Chernobyl set FPS Stalker 2 will be, developed as it is by authentically Ukrainian game developer GSC Game World. Bet there won't be a single British accent in it. We do know that, based on our love for the original game, Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, that we're very much looking forward to it though. The original game was a grim survival FPS set in a huge open world surrounding the stricken reactor, filled with mutated animals, gangs of bandits, and weird anomalies that could turn you inside out. I like my insides in, thank you very much. What's more, objectives within that world could be approached in different ways, and there was a non-linear, branching story with multiple different endings, some of which were pretty freaking weird. From the brief glimpses we've seen of the new game and the small Q&A on the official website, Stalker 2 looks like it will be almost exactly the same, but prettier. Which is fine by us, and because statistically you probably didn't play the original game back in 2007, presumably fine by you too, particularly as it's going to be included as part of Xbox Game Pass from launch. Can't argue with basically free. So there you go, those are the slightly more obscure games we're looking forward to in 2021. But what's caught your eye outside of the usual big budget upcoming games? Let us know what you're looking forward to in the comments, and like and subscribe for lots more fun stuff in 2021. Thanks for watching.